So somebody with a strata dispute would start here in the Getting Started button, and they would have the opportunity to start to use the Solution Explorer. So I'm going to imagine that I'm somebody who has an adult child who I want to rent my condo unit to. And I need to go somewhere else. I can't live there anymore, but I want my adult son to be able to use my condo unit. And my strata council president has said, no, we have rental restrictions, there's a limit of 5, and I'm sorry, they're all filled up now. So I am a strata owner who has an issue. So I would start here. This is still a tribunal, and so we have terms of use, but we've tried to make these as plain language as possible. So I'm going to agree because I have in fact read these in the past. And so now I'm asked whether I'm using a public or private computer, and the reason for that is because we want to protect people's privacy. We don't want them downloading information onto a public library computer. They'll still be free to email it or print it though if they'd like. And I'm sorry, the internet connection in this room can sometimes be a little bit slow, so bear with us. So what can we help you explore? So within a couple of seconds, I'm being asked the first question. Well, the strata won't give me permission to do something. I want to rent my unit and they've said no. So I would click here. But let's say my issue doesn't appear on this page. What I do is click this Tell Us What's Missing button. I can fill out what the issue is, and the system will send us an email. That's really helpful to us because it'll let us know how do we add content in the future. What have we missed? And we'll have a chance to respond to the person. People can also get help by clicking this Help button. Eventually this will be populated with frequently asked questions, but they can also ask us a question by sending us an email here. They can tell us if there's some issue with the technology here, and we'll be able to respond to that quickly. There's also a progress bar. We found from user testing, people really like to know where they are in the process. What are they getting into? There's also an access code. This lets people pick up where they left off if they have to leave and make dinner or put their kids to bed. The system does not store any personal information. We really want it to be an anonymous way for people just to get tools and information that they need. But we know sometimes people need to take a break as well. Okay, so my issue is here. The strata won't give me permission for something, and it won't give me a permission for renting my strata lot. And I'm going to zoom by some of these as well so that we are able to get to your questions. So based on this information, the Solution Explorer is giving me now a very plain language, 1 and a bit page piece of information about renting my strata lot. The Strata Property Act has 322 sections with an average of 2 subsections, plus the standard bylaws, plus the regulations. It's a complicated area of the law. Our aim is to get people to the information that they need within about 3 or 4 plain language questions, giving them plain language information along the way. So the Strata Property Act and the standard bylaws have some exemptions to this rule on rental rental restrictions. And one of those exceptions is renting to a family member. So my situation falls into one of these exceptions, the family exception. And as I answer questions, the information that I'm given as well as my answers to questions are shown on the left-hand side. This again comes from user testing that shows us that people like to be able to jump around and get back to information they saw earlier. So again, the Strata Property Act has some definitions about who counts as family, and not a cousin, for example, but a son or daughter does count as family. So now I have some information about my dispute, and I'd like to request a hearing with the Strata Council. There's specific ways, again, to do that under the Act as well, and that information will tell us how to do that. So yes, even reviewing that information, I do want to have a hearing. And so this leads to one of the most popular tools in the Solution Explorer. People often don't feel confident writing letters to people with whom they're having a dispute. They may not be lawyers themselves or feel like they have the right legal knowledge or language. And so what we've done is create hundreds of these pre-filled out letters that already have the right provisions of the Act. They already have the language. And all I would need to do is just enter my information and tab through. I also have an opportunity to edit the letter again. You don't need any software to do this. Somebody could do it from a public library, and I could change it around so that it meets my needs. I then have to email it to myself, or print a copy, or download it, because again, the system doesn't store any personal information. I can also rate all these tools as we go along. There's a lot of ways that we're collecting feedback so that we can improve. This is one of the easiest ones. People can tell us if they like a tool or not, and as I mentioned, this is a popular one. There's also this very cathartic not helpful button here. So you can press that, and that also tells us that we have to go back and have a look at the resource and improve it. There's also special ways to deliver a strata notice, unsurprisingly. You can't, for instance, just slide it under somebody's door, so we tell you how to do that. And at this point, we've reached the end of our exploration. We give people a plain language summary of what their dispute was, as well as the plain language information we've given them along the way, and some external resources too. So at this point, I could go send that letter to my strata council, request a hearing, and hopefully my issue would be resolved. But if it wasn't, then I could start the CRT process from the Solution Explorer. It's a seamless end-to-end system. And at this point, the Solution Explorer has told the intake form what form I need, who I am, and some basic information about my dispute. So I don't have to go searching for what the right form is. It already knows I'm a strata owner or tenant. So keep going. And I'm not going to subject you to be filling out the entire form because I know that's not very interesting. But I will point out some different features about our online intake form compared to more traditional forms in the justice system. And here I'm very thankful for Chrome autofill. It'll spare you from having to watch me type. So we've already pre-populated the fields that somebody needs. They change whether they're a strata, an organization, or a person. So we're not asking people to figure out which information applies to them. And as I mentioned, we designed this with plain language experts so that we're not hopefully confusing people. One of the things that's different about what we're doing is that we're also asking people if they have any special needs that we can accommodate. So for instance, do they have literacy issues? Do they have difficulty reading or writing in English? Do they have a hearing or visual impairment or a mental health issue? This information won't be shared with the other parties, but it does let us try to accommodate those needs within the tribunal to the extent that we can. I can also ask for a representative if I feel that I need one, and the CRT has rules about who may or may not have a representative, but we consider each application. And if somebody truly feels that they cannot represent themselves, we will allow them to have a representative. So then I fill out information about the respondent, and look, I've missed a field. And so instead of finding that out when I take this to a court registry, the system won't let me move on until I've filled out the correct information. And that helps us make sure that we'll have complete applications at the end. And then the last thing I'll show you is about the dispute. We're really focusing on early dispute resolution. One of the ways to do that is to share with the parties information about why the dispute is important to them. Now that's not usually legally relevant, but it is helpful for building empathy within the parties and helping to encourage consensual resolution. So for example, we're asking people, why is resolving this claim important to you? We're also asking what they've done to try and resolve it on their own. And that will help our facilitators, these mediators, do a better job of helping to resolve the dispute. After that, the person has an opportunity to upload, or sorry, to add descriptions of evidence. They would then review their form, they would pay by credit card, they can also send us a check, or they can apply for a fee waiver right within this process. So after that, the intake form would be reviewed by our staff. We'll issue a dispute notice. The party can go serve that on the other parties and return that proof of notice, and then they have a claim, an active